The United Nations Security Council meets today in what could prove to be a pivotal juncture in Ukraine's push to prove war crimes were carried out by Russian troops. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is expected to provide evidence and seek punishment in an address to the Council, his first since Russia's invasion in February. NATO is also gathering to discuss its response to the crisis. Mr. Zelenskyy will report firsthand about his recent visit to Bucha, where dozens of bodies were discovered after Russian troops withdrew from the city. Moscow is facing international condemnation for the civilian killings, but it has denied responsibility.
Вони вже запускають брехливу кампанію, щоб заховати власну провину у масових вбивствах цивільних людей в Маріуполі. Вони зроблять десятки постановочних інтерв'ю, перемонтованих записів, будуть спеціально вбивати людей так, щоб це виглядало, нібито їх убив хтось інший. Ймовірно, тепер окупанти будуть намагатись сховати сліди своїх злочинів. Вони не зробили цього в Бучі, коли відступали, але на іншій території це ймовірно можливо.
Mr. Zelenskyy says it is difficult to push back Russian forces from Mariupol. The port city has been under siege for weeks, with civilians trapped and running low on essentials. Russian-backed troops have been seen gathering dead bodies, with some in military uniform. Mr. Zelenskyy adds Turkey is ready to help those wounded, but says it depends on Russian President Vladimir Putin's will. A Red Cross team detained as it traveled to Mariupol to help evacuate civilians has been released. It says it is now focused on continuing the operation.
Ей было плохо, сердце, она мне вчера жаловалась, мы ее покормили вчера, сегодня она не захотела кушать. Вот мы только все вот пришли, вот тут стояли, дали таблеточку, водички, чаю дали и вышли. Пошли еще уголь ей дать активированный. А когда женщина потом пришла и говорит, вы знаете, она на меня не отзывается.
Нет, Куличевская. Он у нас. Я сейчас плакать.
On the diplomatic front, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is expected to visit Kiev this week, along with top diplomat Josep Borrell. But a meeting of Russian and Ukrainian leaders is looking less and less likely. Mr. Zelenskyy admits the likelihood of talks is now a challenge. He says it is possible that he will not be meeting Vladimir Putin. Russian state media says the two countries are continuing intensive peace talks via video link. Kieran McQuillan joins us live from Lviv. Kieran, Kiev's mayor says that the situation is improving in the capital, yet he is urging civilians who fled not to return just yet. Why?
Yeah, the mayor of Kiev is called Vitaly Klitschko, and yesterday he asked people not to return to the city, even though life is slowly returning to normal. Cafes are reopening, etc. He asked them not to return for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's a lot of ordnance, unexploded ordnance that the Russians have fired into the city from their positions to the north and east when they did try to make that failed attempt to encircle the capital when they invaded this country 41 days ago. So he's asking people not to come back in case of injury from that ordinance. There's also round-the-clock curfews in some of these districts, and the reason for that is because there is a belief that Russian saboteurs are still operating within the boundaries of Kiev, and this is to try and get everybody off the streets so that these saboteurs can be rounded up.
And with Russian troops on the move, is Ukraine prepared for larger attacks in the east and south?
Yeah, the Ukrainians know exactly what is coming, and they've telegraphed this for some time, along with their allies, especially the United States and the United Kingdom, whose intelligence in the first place was the most accurate about the intentions of Vladimir Putin when he invaded this country back in February. The Ukrainian general Facebook page said today that Russian forces are now focused on seizing two cities. That's Popansa and Robishne, which is one's in the Donetsk and one's in the Luhansk region, as well as, of course, that besieged city of Mariupol, which is still holding out. Now, in a sign of just how nasty things could possibly get here, there are reports from the military administration of Robichne that some nitric acid was used today on a Ukrainian tank. But look at all of that burnt out armor that we were seeing in those pictures from Bucha yesterday. And there's a lot of abandoned Russian hardware as well, which when the Russians pulled back, they've just left. The Ukrainians are now taking this and requisitioning it and bringing it to this new front, which is opening up on the east. Very little training is needed, of course. This is ex-Soviet hardware, so they know how to operate it. And the Ukrainian forces feel that they have the upper hand. They have been defending their own land, of course, and they've managed to rout the Russian forces from around Kiev. So they're looking for some heavier weaponry to try and push back Russian forces down in this new front that's opening up in the east.
Many thanks for that, Kieran McQuillan reporting live from Kiev.
Meanwhile, Moscow is fighting an uphill battle to convince the West its troops were not involved in the mass killing of civilians in Bucha. John Beaver has been tracking Moscow's reaction, and he joins us from Riga in Latvia. John, Russia so far claiming Ukraine staged those mass killings near Kiev. What evidence does he have of that?
Well, very little in the way of hard evidence at the moment, to be completely frank, but very much the Kremlin sticking to the line that they are not responsible for the mass killings of innocent civilians. They've claimed they will present empirical evidence to the UN at some point today, although what that evidence is, we don't know. So everyone will be very keen to see what Russia puts forward as it continues to deny these war crimes. They have, of course, claimed that the horrific images coming out of places like Bucha and other areas surrounding the capital, they claim that a lot of the videos and the pictures have been faked. But important to point out, they haven't presented any evidence to back up those claims. They've also been making bizarre claims in fringe parts of the Russian media as well, claiming that heads of news agencies are responsible for doctoring videos and preparing new fake videos that will be distributed amongst Western media. There is, of course, absolutely no evidence to suggest that that's true either. So really, Moscow and the Kremlin sticking to this line that they're not responsible, but not presenting anything yet to back up any of their claims that they've made that this is all some form of propaganda.
John, we were hearing earlier from Kieran McQuillan in Lviv that there are reports of Russian troops regrouping for a big attack in Ukraine's east, specifically in the Luhansk region. What do you know about Moscow's movements on the ground there?
Yeah, well, we've heard from the local governor there on Telegram, and he said that equipment is coming from different directions. They're bringing manpower, they're bringing fuel. And as we've been hearing there from our reporter in Ukraine, what we've been hearing is that Ukraine knows what's coming. And this is no surprise, this is no shock that we have Russian troops heading into the south and southeast of the country. So it's a case of trying to reinforce Ukrainian troop numbers there as we see this arrival of Russian troops. It's not just as simple, though, as these Russian troops pulling out from around the capital, for example, and then heading down to the south and southeast of the country. The UK MOD has said they believe that troops withdrawing from northern Ukraine might need significant re-equipping and refurbishment in order to get them battle ready once again. We've also been hearing, of course, about possible conscripts being used, young, inexperienced soldiers. The Kremlin say they won't send them, but some disagreements over that. But everyone bracing themselves for ongoing fighting in south and southeast Ukraine.
Thanks for that update, John Beaver in Riga, Latvia.
More Western countries are expelling Russian diplomats in response to their country's invasion of Ukraine. Italy, Denmark, Sweden and Spain have joined the joint European action. More than 120 Russian diplomats have been sent packing since yesterday. Italy is expelling 30 diplomats on grounds of national security. Denmark says it will expel 15 individuals. Sweden, 3 and Spain around 25. The move follows the decision of France and Germany yesterday and comes on the back of outrage across Europe over the killings in Bucha. The Kremlin has rejected accusations that Russia was responsible for the killings. It says the expulsions are a blow to diplomatic relations and says Russia will retaliate.
Japan has flown 20 Ukrainian refugees into Tokyo in a show of support for the international effort to help Kiev. The group arrived from Poland with Japan's Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi, who was there to assess the refugee situation. Japan has already accepted around 400 Ukrainian refugees. But the group of 20 today are the first to be flown in on a special government flight. Tokyo has vowed to give them maximum support.